What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome
Hey,
to the Underdog Talk. And it's been a little while since we've had a podcast out, but I had to bring him back on for the fourth time. And I counted. This is the fourth time. One of my favorite bodybuilders, one of the most humble individuals out there, Apex Predator, Kerrith Bajjo. What is up, sir? How you doing today?
what's going on, my man Teddy? Teddy, the underdog of underdogs, but is doing big things and is sunning everybody underneath the sun.
Yes, and
Everything is going well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, and everything's going well myself. This podcast is going to do what it's going to do, and I'm looking forward to a fun podcast with you, Kerrith. Obviously, talking bodybuilding, talking prep, talking. What year are we going into? 2026, Mr. No, it would be 2025, Mr. Olympia.
2025. Yep.
Thank you. And obviously, I just want to start off and talk the recent bodybuilding that's been going on. We've had some exciting events, obviously, in Open, 212, Classic as well. I think bodybuilding has had some very fun shows these past few months, and the big one, obviously, is that I would love to get your professional opinion on is obviously Derek beating Nick. I think.
I
know. I think there is some controversy, and obviously both are incredible athletes.
For sure.
When they're on, they're on, and obviously Derek's been on the podcast, a phenomenal guy, and Nick's a very hard worker, so nothing but respect for those. But what did you think about that show? And I guess, Kerrith, who did you think had the upper hand?
All right, Teddy. I'm so happy we're starting with this one. Let me just say that both guys looked phenomenal in Pittsburgh. And shout out to, Jim Mannion, Tyler Mannion, the Mannion family, the NPC IFBB, because that show, it's like they were saving the live stream for that show. And that was the best live stream I believe we've seen in bodybuilding till this day. Olympia, Arnold, it doesn't matter. That picture quality, Gilco. Shout out to Gilco, because I believe he was the one on the camera. They killed it with that. Yeah. Now, that said, I always say that there's three shows, right? You have the one that happens in pictures that, all the Instagram armchair quarterbacks are commenting on, and they pick their favorite guy, but they couldn't tell you the criteria for judging, right? So they just see a two-dimensional picture and they determine who won and who got robbed. And, a guy might have got a bad snapshot of a guy, in transition turning with, a distended stomach. He's just breathing. Stomach's not even distended, but people see that and then they talk that whole bubble gut nonsense. All I can say is those guys brought it. There's also another show that happens in video. Video shows movement, but again, it's really only two dimensions. And then you got the actual live show, which if you're a purist, if you're a true fan, that's the show that you want to see, because there's certain things that the camera just can't catch that the eye does. So with all that, I wasn't in attendance, but I saw two of the three, and those two that I saw don't really count for the one that matters the most, which is the live stream. So I saw the pictures, I saw the film, and what I took from those two things, it honestly looked like Nick had Derek, man. Like, Nick came out looking like a fucking monster, dude. No slight to Derek. Derek was on point. Was he at his all-time best? I would say, in my opinion, I've seen Derek better. But truth of the matter is, Nick came out looking like, the juggernaut. And he wanted it. He presented everything well, kept his waist tight. I don't even think he relaxed his legs once. His legs were stuck, so he got in that front relaxed. I don't think we saw him relax until it was time to step offside or step off the stage. So, big shout outs to Nick for that. And Derek did bring it, but it was more the shock and awe of what Nick brought that really compelled me to say, oh shit, it's going to happen. We're about to witness history. However, I did, in retrospect, see what the judges' criteria was, and I'm sorry, their criticism was of Nick, that he somewhat faded towards the end. I don't, if I was a judge, I probably would have still given it to Nick. I didn't see him fading that much, but again, I wasn't there in person, so it's just what I saw on screen and in pictures. But, shout outs to both of them because they killed it. And Derek did come back better at night. And I've never seen anything like that because Steve tortured these guys, and the fact that they didn't collapse under that stress, under those lights, shout outs to them. That was an awesome show. I was excited as a fan. I was excited to be part of that league. And, ultimately the call was, Derek is the winner. But, kudos to Nick for coming back the next week. I saw him at the New York Pro, and he didn't have the same pop that I saw on screen. But again, I hadn't seen a version of Nick like that on stage in probably like a year and a half. And it was impressive. But Regan was right there nipping at him. Regan started to fade a little bit, and Nick held it down and sealed the win. Shout outs to him. He got 3 rings. That was a big deal to really stand on business and really say, I'm qualifying for the Olympia.
Yeah, right after this podcast, I'm clipping that. I'm putting that on the Instagram, seeing what the fans think. But I agree. I think they both of them put on a show, and I think it was great for bodybuilding, Kerrith, because it was bringing the excitement. It was bringing, and like you mentioned, I saw the comments about how good the quality of the background was and how good just kind of the production value was. So it was a great show, and shout out.
They definitely did their homework on this, because a lot of the athletes have been crying for years, and I shouldn't say crying, but we've vocalized and said that, let's elevate the screens, have a black curtain, and still run the ads and everything, and every sponsor could still get out there. Let's just elevate the screens. But as with that black backdrop like the New York Pro usually has, the athletes really get to showcase what they worked for. Yeah. So, you get a quality presentation. You really get to show the fans what you really worked on over the off season. And it really enhances the experience of going to a bodybuilding show or even just watching it on screen. You get that pop. It's like, perfect example, right? It's like, seeing an unedited version of a photo and then seeing the edited version. The black backdrop is like adding in that edited version, but it's real time, real life.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, Derek's been nothing but phenomenal as a champion. Former champion, but I'm just more speaking on how he's treated me when he came on. He came on before he even did his first open, and just was a truly humble being. I've talked to Nick a little bit, never had him on the podcast, but he's a hard worker. I'll give credit where credit's due. The dude's a grinder, and to overcome those injuries, be out of Olympia for 2 years, come back and look the way he did and challenge a guy in Derek Lunsford who's elite. Yeah, he's a
Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, and I was saying, he's up there. He's going to be a top 3 every year, whether the placings change, whatever that is. He's Derek Lunsford. So
and rightfully so, because he's not a slouch. Derek's going to put in the work. Nick wants it just as bad as Derek does. And at the end of the day, I just want to say, if this does reach Nick, dude, you lost to a Mr. Olympia. There's nothing to hang your head low about, so definitely keep your head up, bro. You are on their asses, bro. So just keep that up, man. And, with that kind of attitude, that never say die attitude, anything is possible. Don't listen to naysayers. But again, you come back to Derek full circle. The champ stood on business, man. He took care of what he needed to take care of. But this is also a full circle moment, too, because the first time you had me on the podcast, the week prior, who'd you have on the podcast? Derek Lunsford.
Really?
It was Barry Lunsford, yeah.
You have a better memory than me. I don't even remember. Time flies.
I don't remember anything useful, dude. Like that's, I have a plethora of Jeopardy knowledge stuck in my head. One day I'll make it to the show, and I might just win it.
I do remember when this was. I do vaguely remember that episode we did. We talked about the politics in bodybuilding, and then I think everyone was getting some kind of cold after the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, the what they call it, the Olympia plague.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, they call it the Olympia plague, dude. That was probably the worst sick that I've ever had in my life. Yeah, till this day, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that.
Yeah, I wonder what it was. I think I know what it was, but I don't know. That's
I think I know what it was. Our immunity was completely eradicated because we were wearing masks for 10 months of the year. Then you put everybody unmasked in Vegas inside of a room with no windows. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah. Funny fact, actually, Kerrith, when I did my first bodybuilding show, and yes, I did a bodybuilding show, I actually got COVID a month before my show, and I remember having to eat the chicken rice, and I was at my parents' at that time, and I had to wear a K95. I would go down on the treadmill, do 40 minutes cardio, but I wasn't giving up. But I do remember I was so scared. I was like, please just don't let me get COVID like the day of my show, so I want it, like all the hard work, but luckily I got it before, and nothing transpired from it. But back to the bodybuilding. I think these shows have been phenomenal. There's some young guns out there,
for sure. I see the young talent coming up, and before we start, bagging on them, I just got to say, all you young athletes that are doing it, thank you for being a part of the culture, man. Bodybuilding needs you too. And, just enjoy the ride. Don't rush things. Do this thing forever, man. Don't rush it. Don't chase it down. It'll come to you. Just allow time to pass. Allow time for your body to develop the proper way. Don't take shortcuts. Shortcuts will get you fucked up. So just make sure you go through the process. Check all the boxes as you go. You want to be able to do this thing and enjoy it the way we're supposed to. That prolongs the life of the athlete, both in the actual training and what the athlete can actually apply to better himself, by learning all the arduous things about bodybuilding. Those characteristics that you learn in those sets and reps actually build discipline and callousness, and teach you not to quit. Forgive me for ranting, but I just want to say thank you, young people, for coming on board. Don't be a fake fitfluencer. Be a bodybuilder. Do this thing for real. No shortcuts.
And I think one person who's actually very good for the sport, has a huge, massive following, and I think he could be very good, is Sam Sulek. The dude. I'm not sure what you think about him, and I've never met him or interacted with him, but he seems like a genuine guy, and he seems to be a hard worker. And anyone who has a big following that helps bodybuilding, I'm all aboard for it. And he won. So
too. I can't say anything bad about the young man. From what I know, all he's doing is telling his truth. And how can you be mad at somebody for telling their truth? They're being, they're allowing you to view their life, and that's kind of a noble act. Not kind of, it is a noble thing, so if you want to be an asshole and kind of like say, hey, that's not how you're supposed to do it, and want to bag on them, it's kind of like, shame on you, because you were doing stupid stuff at that age too. Not saying that he does stupid stuff, but you were doing things and nobody was judging you for it. He actually allowed people into his life and see his process, and now all of a sudden everybody's an expert on what's right and what's wrong. Like, who are you to judge? But I commend him because, dude, he is pretty much like said, hey, listen, I'm in this thing for real. And he's not just a fake fitfluencer. He's out there grinding, he's putting in the sweat equity, and he's taking it as it comes, so How can you be mad at that? The guy went out, said, I want to be a pro, and here we are. He's a pro now.
Yeah.
Can't take nothing from him.
And it reminds me of a lot of C-Bum, not in terms of the physiques, but just in terms of the following they bring from kind of the outside community.
Oh, yeah. It's powerful, man. This guy has, I've seen lines at expos.
7 million followers on Instagram, maybe more at this point.
That's amazing. Like, you have celebrities that I follow that I've followed my entire life that don't have 7 million followers.
Yeah.
So for him to have that kind of polarization, that's saying something.
I always like to compare it to my friends who have no idea about bodybuilding, who don't know any of these guys are, but they know who C-Bum is. They know who Sam Sulek is.
Yep.
So I always like to compare it into perspective of that. And
that's the question I get asked the most. People hear that I'm a bodybuilder. They're like, oh, do you know C-Bum? I'm like, damn, can you ask me about me? But I'm like, I don't know C-Bum, but I've seen him a few times. I actually do know. I've met Ian a few times. So, Ian and I have chopped it up, but I've never actually had any conversations with C-Bum. But, what C-Bum did for the sport, like, kudos to Sam for kind of carrying that torch. He came into the actual competitive side a little bit later, whereas Chris was a bodybuilder from the get-go. And now he's doing things outside the sport now that he's retired, but he's still involved in the culture. And I could see Sam being very similar in that way. So, I hope that we get to see it. I hope that, he makes great decisions, doesn't have injuries, and just, takes it to the next level, because it's individuals like that that really keep bodybuilding as a topic of discussion. Yeah. Whether it's good, bad, you got to kind of just drink it in and take it for what it is.
Yeah, 100%, Kerrith. And, kind of the next segment I want to kind of talk about is, and what this early 2025 Mr. Olympia predictions. And the only reason I want to bring this up is because I actually saw on your Instagram story that, is it really 9 weeks out?
Well, not from the Olympia.
Okay,
so that's
another show.
Yeah, so 9 weeks out for the Texas Pro.
Okay.
Now, Texas Pro is August 9th. So we have August, October. Wow. So, yeah, after that, I think the Olympia might be no more than 5 weeks after.
Okay.
Wait, what did I say? August, September. Forgive me. I'm not looking at a calendar.
No,
August, September, October. Edit that, please. But August, September, October. So, shit, what do we got? Yeah, it's still only 6 weeks.
Well, I look stupid because for some reason I didn't even think about the 9 weeks out was. I know Mr. Olympia's in October. Yeah, no, but yeah. So
and I believe it's October 9th. So it would technically be 8 weeks. 8 weeks after.
Okay, so it's still relatively. Yeah. I'm only 8 weeks off, Kerrith, but
I forgot a whole month, so you're forgiven.
Okay. All right, we both are on the same page, obviously, but you got your upcoming show. That's gonna be big. You're already qualified though, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, buddy. So when everybody was hanging it up for the year, I was like, the hell with it. Besides the fact that I had mentioned I want to go to Japan, and it was always like a goal of mine to, go to Japan. But then I heard there was a show in Japan, and my buddy Marco Rivera, shout out to Marco, Bronx Bad Boy on Instagram. Make sure you follow him. Lots of useful information and just all around great person. He actually was friends and training one of the athletes that was from Japan, and somehow knew the promoter. I was supposed to go out there many years ago. COVID happened. They put everything on the back burner. And when COVID restrictions got lifted, Japan wanted a special travel visa, and it was kind of difficult for athletes to get. Didn't want to go through the headache. But after it was all said and done, I met the promoter at the Olympia, and he's like, "Are you coming to Japan?" I was like, "Yes." Yeah. So after that, the rest is history, man. I just said, you know what? Another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We're here. We're in shape. Let's go to Japan. So I went to Tokyo, stood on business, and you're looking at the Japan Pro Champ.
Yep. And flashback to now where I remember is we had the last podcast we did with you was you were preparing for the Japan Pro. So full circle moment. You obviously won.
Yeah.
So you're qualified. So New York Pro, obviously I'm not a bodybuilder, so I can't understand the time frame of doing a show before the Olympia. But you know, you have a great coach, and you have you know what you're doing, so I totally understand on that. And then after that, what we are now how many weeks after the New York Pro to the Mr. Olympia? I can't even do the math. I don't want to look stupid on my own podcast.
Well, New York Pro happened, I think, May 18th.
I was talking about New York Pro. Sorry, I was talking about the show you're doing in August.
Oh, Texas Pro.
Texas Pro. Texas and New York are completely different places. Yes, so you're doing the Texas, and now after that is the Mr. Olympia.
Yes. So that's the goal as of now. Is let's go to Texas. We're going to do the Open. We're going to try the Open. So it's always been a goal of mine, Teddy. Like I said, when I signed up to do bodybuilding, I didn't sign up to be a 212 bodybuilder. 212 is just the category that I happen to compete in, but I want to bodybuild. I want to see what I stack up against the mass monsters. And I think I present a great amount of mass with a little bit of, you know, great lines. Like I believe that I have the neutralizing factor, as I call it, you know, like I call myself sometimes the great neutralizer, because I've stood next to guys who are, you know, 280 pounds when I'm 200 pounds. And you'd be hard pressed to tell somebody that I'm 200 and that guy's 280, you know, because it visually doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like we're a lot closer together. Now, going forward, it's still going to be 212, but I do want to flirt with the Open, do a possible, you know, 1 or 2 more Open shows before I'm all said and done. If I can, I would love to do the Arnold next year. I don't have delusions of grandeur, but I know that everybody's got to show up. And if somebody's off, there's my chance, you know? And as you know, with bodybuilding, it's all about timing. If they don't time it, you know, I know what I'm capable of, and I can only control my race. I'm going to show up, you know? So if they don't show up, that's on them. I'm always going to present the best version of myself, because I wouldn't enter the show if I didn't think that I could better myself.
And obviously, you know, you are an elite competitor. You are, you know, truly
thanks, bro.
Up there in eliteness in the 212. Your you know, your name is known, and you know, we've seen it before where, you know, people from the 212 go to the Open, and you know, we had a guest.
Can we give those guys their flowers?
Yeah.
Can we give those guys their flowers? Let's start it off with Heat A. Let's talk about Heat A. Let's talk about Jose Raymond. Let's talk about William Bonnick. Let's talk about Derek Lunsford. Let's talk about Hadi Choopan. Let's talk about Brandon Curry. Like, come on, man. I mean, like, pound for pound, the 212 guys, they are holding their own. So, you know, if I forgot anybody else, forgive me. But, you know, I just love the fact that my guys in my division aren't nervous. They aren't scared to go up against the guys that outweigh them by 100 pounds. You know, and then here they are bumping elbows on stage, looking the part.
Yeah, and one of those guys got, you know, and 4 out of 6 of those guys have been on the podcast, and one of those guys has won it, and one of those guys got second in the Mr. Olympia. So yeah, it's it's. I think it's. I don't think at this point people should be surprised. I think it should be. You know, and there's a guy from 212 also who wants to, well, I don't want to speak for him, but he also might go to the Open, and I think he will be a threat. He's an elite competitor, and, you know, people.
You talking about Keon?
I'm talking about him because I think he's.
Yeah, listen. Let me pull up. Let me backtrack. I remember in Georgia, it was the Chicago Pro that happened in Georgia, and it was probably one of the first times Keon and I really, you know, chopped it up. And I remember Keon saying, man, I'll never go to the Open. I don't know if he remembers this conversation. He said, I'll never go to the Open. And I'm like, you're talking for your health right now. Like, honestly, I can see you being in the Open in a few years. He's like, no, man, I don't think I'll do it. But now here we are. And I think the culture has kind of forced the narrative we want to see it. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink it. So I think ultimately that's his decision. But the people do want to see it, Keon. And I'm letting him know right now. God, Keon, if I do an open show, you're doing an open show. All right. So now that that's off the table, we'll see him eventually. It'll happen. He's got the lines. He's got the size. And to boot, he's got the title of the 212 Olympia. So all these factors, they should show you, Keon, that it is possible. So, I know you're not scared of nothing, but it's time, man. It's time. And I'm not saying move on to it. Just do an open show. Give the people what they want to see. We got to give back to the fans because they're the ones that pay attention to us.
The one, Keon's been on the podcast 3 times, maybe 4. He always speaks about he'll do it on his own time. He loves bodybuilding just as much much as the elite ones. And I remember we had him on before he even got top 10 in the 212. I don't even remember what he placed, but it was the dude's a grinder. But obviously, I guess we can start with the 212 for the Mr. Olympia. There's some pretty good guys out there. We're speaking about one and we're talking with another. So, who are some of the other dark horses that you're looking forward to competing with at the 2025 Mr. Olympia?
Oh, man. 2 guys that I failed to mention that are 212 that went to the Open. Angel Calderon, Sean Clarita. Now, if you've been paying attention to the 212 the past 2 years, you'd know that it's been in this order: Keon, Sean, Angel, and myself. And the 5th spot has been interchangeable. I'm looking to see that first call out again. I would love if we could show the people that those 4 are there to stay. However, this is a volatile thing. It's all timing. Yeah. So I would love it if I could get my revenge, if you may, and really showcase that I've made the improvements necessary to place higher. Yep. My ultimate goal is to win the 212 Olympia this year. I won't bite my tongue. I won't mince words about it. I love all my competitors. Yeah, I love all my competitors. Keon will tell you he's there to stay. And I'm there to tell you, hey, listen, bro, I want to push you off the hill.
Yeah, I think that's how it should be. And I think you have, and before I didn't mean to interrupt, I think you have every capability of winning it. I think it is a very possible and real thing. So I don't think there's anything to bite your tongue on. I think you're a competitor. You're an elite competitor at that. You've placed, consistently every time you brought an elite package. Sometimes we've talked and you've said that you didn't bring your best on that night. But when you bring your best, you are someone who can win it. If not push everyone on that stage to the brink of failure. I don't know what the word is to say. Brink of,
break them,
whatever it is. Yeah. So
we want to see who's going to fold first. And I always want to be in that conversation. No question about it. I think more physically than anything though, mentally this year, I'm so prepared for it. I never had an off season, since COVID ended and I started competing again. I haven't had a true off season. Even now, I would say that it isn't really an off season because I did Japan late November, and I'm back at it, going back on stage in August. So it's not really a full year off, which some people do. But I thought that was enough time, and I'm a guy that if I see guys out there getting after it and I know that I've beaten them in the past, I want to get some, I want to get some of that. Come on, man. I got to get back to work. So now I'm challenging myself with this new venture going into the open division. And I feel as if this is my first time bodybuilding. So that hunger, that fire is reignited. And then somebody came in and threw, kerosene on it. So it got even more flammable, so I'm in a good space mentally. And I think doing the open show is a good way to keep progressing while giving my brain a vacation from doing the 212.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing but fun to be had from doing what I'm about to do.
Yeah, and I know I DM'd you a few days ago asking how you are, and I'm glad to hear that you are physically at
Thank you
your
for that, by the way.
physically growing or physically getting to where you will be for the Mr. Olympia, obviously, and mentally, I'm very happy to hear you're in a great space. As that is crucial in, well, not just bodybuilding, anything that you love doing. So that is very excellent news. And I guess 212. I don't want to touch too much on it because it's just gonna be a great show. There's not much to kind of go about.
Dude,
It's gonna be guys pushing each other. And obviously you're gonna
this year especially.
Yes.
This year especially. Because we've had 212 champions that have done, one win, but we haven't seen in recent time a multiple, or I should say a repeat champion.
Yeah.
When you get a repeat champion, all that does is put a bigger bullseye on that person's back.
Yeah.
So right now, Keon has a bullseye on his back the size of Vegas, and every 212 competitor wants to take a shot.
Yeah.
Good luck with it, because he's a fantastic athlete. So you're gonna have to do your homework to knock this guy off. And I know he's out there busting his ass. I know his fiance is out there pushing him, and he's got a good team. So if you're not doing all the things that he's doing, good luck beating them. Be a great show this year.
And I think that's a great point. And I think for any sport, again, competitors being competitive, but competitive on stage, off stage, all love. And I know that's what it is. I know that's what it is between the 212. I think the open and most divisions. So yeah, I think it's great for the sport for athletes to be wanting to ultimately take each other out in a sense on stage. I think that's the true definition of competitiveness, in my opinion. But yeah, no. Now going to the 2025 Mr. Open, I don't know, because this is going to be it's going to be a stacked lineup. And last year I had so much fun watching it. This year I'm going to have so much fun watching it. Obviously, we talked about a guy, the mutant, who's coming back now at full health, and praying that he nothing goes wrong, that he's able to be in there. But yeah,
knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yes, yes. You got and Andrew Jack's now looking like he's starting to get his potential, and you got Samson, who's the champion. You got Derek, who's always a threat. Hottie, who's always a threat. Martin, who's always a threat. You got 6 guys, and Hunter's taking the year off, but you got 6 guys that I just named that could easily win it.
This is true. And then you have an aesthetic monster in Martin.
Yep,
don't forget about Martin.
I added Martin.
You did?
Yeah, I did add Martin.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So he was your 6th, but you didn't mention him. But I do got to say he's a freak of nature when it comes to the lines. But I will say this: every guy has they've all had their own little battery in their back. You have Derek, who got his spark back because he went to Pittsburgh, stood on business, and handled that right. Then you have Andrew Jack. He got his win, so now he gets to rest and see everything play out. Samson. I also forgot. Derek got the Arnold win as well. So he's fired up. So now he knows it's a possibility.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the story is not over. Right? Then you get Nick. Nick got his redemption story, and that's a beautiful one to tell. And he's going to put in the work because that's his mentality. He doesn't know anything else. Who else do we got?
The champion.
Samson. He's looking bigger and better than he's ever looked. I think I saw it yesterday. He was 328. Dude, like, come on. Personally, I would like to see him on stage at 280. I think he would be absolutely unbeatable at 280. But that's me. That's not the look that him and his team want. But, everybody's got their own little thing that gives them the confidence to bring their best in October. And I can't wait to see the Open. And usually I only watch the Open division from the TV screen, but this year I will be in the seats after I compete. So yeah, I can't wait to see it as a fan of bodybuilding. It's going to be a great year.
And again, you know, we've had Derek on the podcast. We've had Andrew on the podcast. We've had Martin on the podcast.
You got to reach out to Samson. Samson's a great dude. You'd jump on. I know he would.
I think he's
unless he's contractually, you know, I don't want to touch that.
That's what it is. But again, everything I've heard about him, shout out to him. He's a very humble champion, and he seems like a really good dude.
He is since before he worked with Milos. Like I've always been, you know, like messaging him, and I told him back in the day, dude, I really believe you're going to be Mr. Olympia. I'm just happy I'm right. I'm just happy I'm right, Teddy. You know what I mean? And he's got all the right weaponry. So, you know, let's see if he could stand on business and double down, man. You know, got everything he needs.
You see, I'm always a big fan of Derek because how he treated me when he was kind of just getting into the ranks. But, you know,
that's him. That's him. Like, he's not putting on a front. Like, I reached out to Derek not knowing Derek, and he responded. You know, granted, I'm a competitor. He might have heard my name, but he had no reason to respond to it. He still reached out, said, if you need anything, just hit me up. And I'm like, dude, like, you know, that's why guys like you get to where you're at, you know, because you put others in front of yourself.
Yeah, he even sent me a free shirt, which I actually have right in the corner. I wear it still to the gym, and everyone's like, why do you have a shirtless, muscular guy in your chest? I was like, hey, you gotta know what you know about that. But obviously, Martin and Andrew on the podcast, that was 3-4 years ago, and they were phenomenal as well. And I love watching their journeys as well, because I think, you know, they're both amazing competitors, and I think both those two guys are just getting. I don't even think they've hit the surface yet. That's the scary part for everyone else with them. And Martin coming in his first Olympia and doing that, like,
he had a fantastic 2 years.
And I even commented I commented on all these like RX muscles, all these things, like, who's the dark horse? Martin. Like, to me, it's so obvious.
Oh, easily, dude. Like I saw Martin last year. Wait, we're 2025, 2024. Yes, I saw Martin last year when we were getting tan, and you know, like this first time I actually ever met him. Nicest guy, but I was just impressed at the improvements from, you know, pictures of yesteryear to where he was then. And I was like, dude, this is mind blowing. Like, you look great. You're about to go out there and kill it. And lo and behold, him and Nick were battling it out.
Yeah, it's close.
You know, I can't imagine this Olympia being anything different. I think it's going to be him and Nick battling for one of the top spots.
Wow. Now, I didn't ask this for the 212, but who are your predictions for the top 5 in the Open this year? If you're allowed to say that, I'm not sure. Who are your early predictions? And I think
early predictions as of today, June 7th, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep,
okay,
7th.
So in no particular order. No particular order. Well, I heard rumblings that Rami might.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings. Like, so we can't forget about Rami.
Yes.
I don't think there's going to be anybody bigger than Rami. You know, if he chooses to compete. Yeah. So, all right, let's take him out of the equation, right? You're going to definitely have Samson, Derek, and now it gets tricky. You got Hadi in no particular order. Like, you definitely got Hadi, right? So. Gotta say Nick is definitely top 5 this year. No question. That 5th spot.
So are you leaving Andrew or Martin out?
Can I just say that, you know, I listen, Andrew's my guy. He's been nothing but kind every time I've seen him. Martin, no different. But if we're talking about structurally, completeness, matching body parts, pound for pound, overall, it's hard to say that Andrew could beat Martin. If I'm a judge, I'm going to go with the guy that has overall better balance. Andrew is kind of limb dominant. Martin is pretty balanced. Like, honestly, he's probably one of the most balanced guys in the entire league. Like, let's call it what it is. And, you know, I'm just speaking as a fan and make-believe judge. My opinion again. So, you know, anybody that wants to comment, whatever, like, this is my opinion. You tell me I don't know better, but I actually do this. I'm a professional.
Right? Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's that far. I think Andrew is capable of winning the Mr. Olympia. I think he's also capable of, you know, being out of time. I think it just depends on how he goes into the Mr. Olympia. But I mean, Martin did beat Andrew in the last Mr. Olympia, so I think that's a very valid very valid prediction. So
very true. And then you have another guy. Dude, I'm a big fan of this guy. Well, I shouldn't say I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of his physique.
Okay.
And I'm actually looking forward to competing against him in Texas. I just heard yesterday that he's doing Texas, and that's Justin Shire.
Okay.
I think he has some of the best classic lines in the industry. And, you know, like these are the things that motivate me, you know, because if I think a guy looks good, I'm like, you know, pause, we'll stop on that. If I think a guy looks the part as a bodybuilder, right, you know, I want to see like, all right, well, how good is he? You know? So I want to see like where we stack up and if, you know, what my strengths are supersede his strengths and vice versa. Things like that. Like that only helps me become a better competitor.
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with this game. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm
not. Dude, you gotta give him a look. You gotta see that this guy has the potential. In my opinion, he has potential to be that guy. He definitely could. I'm gonna say this. Not gonna bite my tongue. If Derek could win Mr. Olympia, I think Justin, with the right amount of time, could possibly do the same. I think his lines are that good, you know. And if I go into Texas and, you know, I'm competitive, I'm not saying I'm staying in the open, but I would probably entertain doing more open shows.
Huh. Wow. No, I love when you make these bold statements that turn out to be correct. And, you know, another guy who I like in the open, and we had him on the podcast, seems like it was a really good dude, kind of been through a lot of adversity, is Tonio Burton.
Tonio's my guy.
Yeah, he seems like, and he just won last week.
Reno, Legion Fest. Fun fact about Tonio though, like, and he's probably gonna get pissed that I say this again. I've never lost to Tonio.
Really?
So it's been a thing that he and I have been saying for a while, like, you know, because he was 212 and I only got to compete against him once. But so I always say, hey, bro, you never beat me. You know? But he's doing big things. And dude, I hats off to you, Tonio, man, because you went through that accident and you bounced back, dude. Fucking Teflon skin. You look like the Teflon Don right now. So that was a big win out in Reno. He looked phenomenal, man. He deserved that W.
Yeah, everyone was saying that's the best look he's brought in, and you know, I'm happy for him. Yeah, shout out to him. Now, obviously, really, you know, one other class I want to cover with you is obviously one that's kind of just bringing it on. We had the guy I think will be the next guy up. We had Mike Summerfield on the podcast 2 months ago.
Mike's gonna win. That's it.
I agree. I agree.
Conversation over.
I agree, and you know,
you know what? Hold on. Let me put a pause to that. Because I you know what? Terrence, forgive me, bro. Yeah, rough came back in a mean way, bro. So yeah, it'll be them two battling it out. Ultimately, it could go either way. They both are phenomenal posers. They're both complete bodybuilders. And, you know, I think that's the matchup everybody wants to see. I know Terrence is going to do everything to be there. Mike, you won't find a harder worker.
Yeah.
I've seen the shit myself. You're not going to find a harder worker.
And when we had Mike on the podcast, I think I told you last time, he reminds me of Derek in terms of he is very humble,
Oh, super
extremely
humble.
humble. Oh, Derek and Mike remind me of the same guy. I mean, Mike
I'll,
is
t-
Mike.
I'll
Mike
tell
and
you a
Derek.
quick story about Mike, right? So
Yeah.
I'm at Fit Club Las Vegas. Shout out to Fit Club. Vinny, what's up, bro? I miss you guys. I can't wait to get back to Vegas. That's where I'll be between there and Powerhouse Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But never met Mike. And at the time, I was using Neil Hill as a coach. That's Mike's coach.
Yes.
And, Mike ran up on me. He was like, hey, you're Kerrith, right? And I was like, yeah. I was like, what's up, Mike? And I met him and Shawnee, his wife.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what possessed it, but he broke out his camera. He's like, dude, I want to make a movie out of you real quick. And I was like, what? I was like, no. And then he let it go. He's like, all right, walks off 5 minutes. He's like, no, I'm not taking no for an answer. We're going to make a movie right now. Go ahead, hit a couple reps, shoots a video. I get back to the hotel. He sends me like this awesome, 30-second clip. And I'm like, dude, thank you. He's just out here. Mind you, he's preparing for the Olympia. He's like, hold on, I'm going to do this real quick for you. And that just shows who who he really is, And his wife is nice. She was super nice to my girl. Dude, just just great people. And I want to see him win. Can I say that? I'm a little biased. I want to see him win.
I want to see him win too. And we had Terrence Ruff on the podcast, and he treated me very well too. I will say this, and I kind of want to stir the pot, and I'm not going to say any names. One of the guys who's pretty good in that has constantly been edging us about coming on the podcast. He's like, yeah, I'm down, never responds. I'm down, never comes on. I'll tell you the name off air, but was kind of, he seems like a good guy, but he's been kind of playing with us, and yeah, that's kind of that. But really the two other things that have been going on are, we've had a lot of good shows. We've had a little drama in the sport of bodybuilding. Not sure how much you want to talk about it, but obviously the thing with
let's hear it.
Bob Ciccarello, I kind of am confused about that, because speaking of Nick and all that, I'm a little confused, and maybe I'm on the outside of it. I'm not sure I'm understanding the full story between these two. I've seen it, I've heard it, but I don't really understand what the ending. I don't really understand it. Maybe I'm.
I from what I've taken out of what transpired, I think it was taken out of context and maybe pushed by, people that don't know these individuals, that they just saw the text and they took a snippet and basically manipulated it for clicks. That's how it came off to me, because I met Bob. Bob is probably one of the nicest guys in bodybuilding. Nick, I've met Nick a couple of times. I got to say nothing but good things about him. And, some things can be taken just completely the wrong way. I think Bob was just voicing his opinion, and others felt as if he shouldn't be voicing his opinion because he's affiliated with the organization he's announcing. But I really don't believe that Bob's opinion is going to weigh on the judge's opinion. The judges still have to judge the physique. So, it's too much for people to say, oh, Bob, you can't say that. Who are we to tell Bob he can't have an opinion on something? And who are we to tell Nick, you can't say that, I think they're both right. I think this is one of those ones where, okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I think that this is the pussification of society today. We aren't allowed to speak our minds, and everything we say has to be handled with kid gloves.
Yeah.
We're talking to two grown men. Back in the day, this is how we talk to each other when we're best friends. You know what I mean? So if your best friend is going to say some shit like this to you, you know what I mean? What's a stranger going to say? Right? All right. So either way.
I agree on that. I agree.
I think that people just need to toughen the fuck up. You get some shit thrown at you, you get tough, and you get better because of it.
Yeah, I think Bob has I think I'm on the side of Nick a little more. I think Bob has every right to say what he says. But if I was Nick in that, and I'm a competitor, oh yeah, I'm chirping back too. Oh, I'm typing stuff. Yeah. So I think it's just two, guys just going at it, and I think it's what everyone else is doing. I just think it's I agree. I
go back to the days of see, I'm a little bit older. I don't know if you grew up this way, Teddy, but back in the day, if I went home and I told my mother, hey, somebody's picking on me at school, she'd be like, well, what'd you do about it? You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to stand up for yourself. And kudos to both those guys for standing up for themselves. Like, listen, if you don't stand up for yourself, you fall for anything. Yeah. So, Nick should stand up for himself. Bob should stand up for himself. And at the end of the day, they're able to shake hands. I watched Bob acknowledge Nick and, announce Nick and congratulate him. And I mean, I think that's beautiful because that shows that, hey, we could talk our shit, but at the end of the day, let's go grab a beer. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And I think that's what it is. I want to believe that's what it is. I don't think it's that serious. At the end of the day, this is what we do for fun on the weekends.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything more than what it is.
I mean, like, listen, you have a million people out there that love Keon. 80% of those people could think that I suck. I could really give a fuck. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like one of those things. Nick is kind of like, so what? Like, yeah, you said this, but you're still not a judge. And that's how I always view these comments. These people talk the most shit, but at the end of the day, their opinion doesn't hold any water.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just an opinion.
100% agree. I think that was a good. I think I couldn't have said it better than myself. And then the other thing that I saw, and I'm blanking on her name right now, so it is a little embarrassing. But her talking about the pay gap.
Linda.
Yes, Linda Murray. I did find that interesting. And I saw where Andrew responded. I think, I think they both had their points. And I think the ultimate goal for everyone is that money should increase. I think it doesn't matter if you're on one side, if you're on the other side, if you're in one class. I think, everyone deserves this money, and I think the sport's growing, and I'm happy to see that. So I'm really excited to see where it is going in terms of the money. And each show seems like the prize money is getting bigger. And so I see both sides. I don't know how.
As somebody who's competed in Linda Murray's show and won it, who received more revenue than the female competitors, if you may. I got to say, honestly, it's, even though I might have received more, how do I say this? The gap between what the women won and what I won, the disparity wasn't that great as to what, what transpired at the Arnold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And
all right, so like let's say it was $5,000. The women champ won like $3,500. The Arnold wage gap was, you know what I mean? It was significantly bigger.
Yeah.
If you were to scale it.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, I love the ladies, man. I've seen these girls grinding day in, day out. And most of these women, let's keep it real. They're working harder than most of these guys these days.
Yeah.
That's why when you see these women at the show, they look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Guys always show up. I shouldn't say guys always, but a lot of guys show up doing half the job. And these women are out here finishing the job. So I could see her argument, and I could see why Andrew felt as if it was a personal attack. Yes. I don't think he meant it that way. I know Linda. She is, I'm not going to mince words. She is the nicest person I've ever met in the sport, period. And that goes back to before I even did her show. This was my second show. I met Linda Murray in Tampa, Florida. And she came up to me and had nothing but kind words. my mouth was on the floor because I was just like, this is 8-time Miss Olympia. You know, like I grew up watching this woman. Like, this is crazy. Like, and she's got nothing but nice things to say, nothing but motivation from her. So I think Andrew might have took it out of context and took it personally, but I know her, and she would not try and tarnish his winnings at all.
Yeah. And you know, this might be controversial, not even just for bodybuilding. It is, you know, obvious. I wish every sport for men and women could be, I guess, equal in terms of the pay. I mean, a good example is the WNBA. The pay gap is very vast, and you know, there are factors like there's not as many people in attendance and the TV deals. You know, and
Yeah.
I think both sides wish, you know, it could be equal pay, but you know, and I think that's still in the works, and I think it's getting better. And
it is getting better. It gets better every year. It gets every year it gets better. But what it comes down to is, listen, fans got to show up. Fans got to demand that their athletes be, you know, paid out in accordance to, you know, what they feel is right. It really doesn't matter what they feel, but you know, they can encourage promoters to boost the purses and things like this. You know, hopefully it's fiscally the right thing to do, but if it doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to do it. So these fans got to show up. They got to put asses in the seats and really support. You know, they got to buy the live streams. They got to get there. You got to support the event. You know, you guys can't say, oh, well, you know, we want more money, and you guys aren't doing anything to contribute to the sport. People that love the NBA go out, they buy jerseys. You know what I mean? Bodybuilding doesn't have jerseys, but we do have the Olympia site. You can go out there and support that, you know?
100%. There's a lot of women trailblazers out there. I mean, one that comes to my mind outside of bodybuilding is Caitlin Clark and what she's done for the sport of women's basketball. I mean, she's stellar. She's you know, Angel Reese as well. Angel Reese is also phenomenal. But yeah, no, and even in bodybuilding, there's so many women who are up and coming and, you know, really can make an impact. So I think
can we just take a minute to give Sarah Villegas her flowers? Because she is an active Miss Olympia, and she's doing so much for women athletes. Like, you got to tilt the brim to her. You know what I mean? Like, her and her husband Ali go the extra mile for competitors, and they really try to reward the efforts of these athletes, and I love it. So, you know, Texas Pro, they always add like 15,000 to the women's physique winner. You know what I mean? So yeah, the women's physique winner will win more money in Texas than the men's open. You know,
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. If not more, about the same.
About the same. Okay.
You know, but that took a lot from Sarah to donate that to the cause. You know, and she's been doing that ever since Arnold got rid of women's physique. You know, so it definitely, it can be done. I think it needs to happen over time. It's not going to be a quick fix.
Yeah.
You know, got to be done right. So that way we don't go backwards.
Agreed. And obviously Natalia's both of those women are phenomenal competitors, bring a great audience, really bring the heat, and it's going to be a great show this year in the Mr. Olympia, and I can't wait to watch those two women compete personally. But really the final topic, Kerrith, and maybe I want to hear from a bodybuilder's perspective. Obviously, as a fan, I think the Mr. Olympia is the elite of the elite. And it's
the cream of the crop, man.
It is the cream of the crop. And I love Arnold. I'm a huge fan of Arnold. Obviously,
the Olympia is still cream of the crop.
Yeah, seven-time Mr. Olympia. I'm just more confused how a 7-time Mr. Olympia and arguably, in my opinion, the greatest bodybuilder, one of the greatest bodybuilders. I think he's the greatest bodybuilder of all time. I mean, in terms of what he did for the sport, you know, it's like
saying Jordan isn't the greatest. You know?
Yes. I still think Jordan is better than LeBron, but you know, whatever. But my point is, it is interesting to me how Arnold, a 7-time Mr. Olympia, created his own thing to try and ultimately compete with the Mr. Olympia. It's just interesting to me that he did that. I'm not saying he's wrong or right. I'm not saying he's wrong or right. I don't think there's a wrong or right to it. I think it's great for bodybuilding at the end of the day. It's just an interesting fact to me that he created something to try and compete with something which he did so well in and is ultimately one of the faces of. It is interesting to me. And there's almost like a tension between the Arnold and the Olympia.
Sure.
Yeah, between Brian and Dan. I don't know. I shouldn't be saying that, but like it seems like they have this back and forth going, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that just?
I do see planes in Vegas flying over with Arnold banners, like the Arnold. Yeah, so they do that. And the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, shots fired. I can't speak on the intricacies of all that. All I know is, listen, the Olympia has always been the Super Bowl. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, I love Arnold. Me and my dad, like, listen, we're big Arnold fans. That's what I grew up watching. Predator, still till this day, might be the scariest movie in concept. You know what I mean? Like, I used to go to bed and tell my dad, like, leave the lights on. Predator might be in here. Shit like that. So, but at the end of the day, I think that, Arnold's achieved so much.
Yes.
I don't think he knows the word can't or shouldn't. It's how. And I think he's trying to figure out how he can make his event be the biggest event.
That's fair.
It's going to take a lot. First off, he has to add in all divisions to even begin to be competitive.
That's true.
Because now you're raising the prize money, but you're eliminating a lot of athletes. And if you love bodybuilding, like, let's keep it real, bikini, figure, fitness, classic physique, it's all bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, it encompasses everything. We can't eliminate anybody. So you got to bring back all those divisions and then keep that prize money up just to be in the discussion. Until that happens, it shouldn't even be compared, to be honest. And I'm not saying that just because Arnold got rid of the 212. And I'm not just saying that because Arnold denied my application.
Wow.
I'm just saying that from a fan's perspective, it's got to encompass everything. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, that's fair.
It's like having the NBA Finals without the playoffs.
And it's another way to look at this, Kerrith, and it's like, which one was first? Arnold competed in the Mr. Olympia. That's where he became.
There you go.
Arnold, and I love Arnold. I'm a big Arnold fan, just like you. I grew
100%.
up watching his movies. He's really the first. I got his encyclopedia. Actually, him and Jim Stapani, shout out to him. But those are the two encyclopedias I grew up on in high school and stuff. Arnold's Arnold. He's yeah. And I think the other thing is, obviously you mentioned the classes getting into the Arnold. But when you get everyone from, I guess for the open specifically, when you can get all the open guys into the Arnold, then because right now there's still you're still getting the elite guys, but there's still some guys in the elite category that aren't going to the Arnold. So I think if you get everyone in the open, everyone in the 212, everyone in each division, it could be, he has a chance. There's no doubt.
And it doesn't even have to be everyone, but you can make it available to everyone and have an elimination, much like they do now with the application process. If you want to choose the top 10 best from each division, your show would be phenomenal. But the Olympia is open to all qualified athletes. Yes. And, you really have to work to get to the Olympia. The Arnold has accepted people who haven't won shows.
Yeah.
So think about that, right?
Yeah, and to add to that, and I think Dan said this. He made a great point. The Arnold is a qualifier for the Mr. Olympia. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Lawyer. He lawyered him.
I was like, I can't. I mean, that's true. That's a great point. That's true. The Arnold is a qualifier for the Mr. Olympia. The Mr. Olympia.
That's a mic drop.
Arnold. Yeah, it's a mic drop. He kind of got him there because the Mr. Olympia is. And I love Arnold. No disrespect. Mr. Olympia is still the cream of the crop. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, I still want to compete in the Arnold. That's one of my goals. So hopefully this year will be the year that my application is accepted. I think that, well, I know there are athletes out there that have less accomplishments than that have been accepted into this.
Yeah.
But I hope that this year is the year that they do review my application thoroughly and check my resume and see that I have done the work.
Yeah.
Because I would still like to be a part of that show. But listen, there is no experience like the Olympia,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about the expo. I'm talking about the Mr. Olympia event.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. I don't think that you can create another event that is going to give you the same end product. It's just, listen, it's the belle of the ball, man.
The Sandow is the Sandow.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And the Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. You have other leagues like the Canadian Football League, and they are great. Trust me, I'm not going to shit on them, but Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. NFL is NFL.
You know how it goes.
You know how it goes on that, and I it's always an honor and privilege to talk with you, Kerrith, and I truly some of my favorite podcasts I get to do with you.
Likewise.
Really, for those who are not familiar yet with the Apex Predators game, he is an elite competitor, truly a humble individual, and I'm very excited, and proud of you to see you, spread your wings and try the Open and see what that's like. I think,
thank you, my friend.
I think for everyone in life, to go out and try something that maybe is a little different, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Especially in just in life in general. So I'm really excited to see the results, and it's very exciting to see you be in the compete in the Open and see how you do. And obviously, I'm looking forward to watching you go for the win in Mr. Olympia, and obviously the Texas Pro, not the New York Pro.
Yeah, listen, I'm doing an Open show, Teddy, but I'm not doing it just to do it. Like, I still want to win Texas. I've never gone into anything with just I want to participate feeling.
Yeah.
Like, again, if I'm going to remain true to that Apex Predator moniker, I want to kill everything. We'd be friends later. We play in the sandbox later, but for now, I want to kill everything. So I'm going to do all the work that I need to do. I'm going to be at my best. I'm going to just keep trying to better myself for the next 9 weeks, and we'll see what turns up.
100%, and I know you mean every word of that. Now, Kerrith, before we go on and this podcast has been, again, we've been going for an hour and it feels like a minute. But obviously, I want to talk about kind of your sponsorships and stuff like that. I see you're working with some new. Can I say that you had the Jed North thing, and I DM'd you. I was like, bro, it's taking me like the thing with like 70 followers or something. You got it corrected, so I'm happy for that. But obviously, that is one, and you're wearing a hat that I really like, and they are some great guys. They are some great guys over there.
Brian Brady.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, what are those codes? And I know you're working with your Mr. Olympia trading cards, right?
Oh yeah. No, that right there is probably one of the coolest accomplishments ever. Like, honestly, dude, I'm on a playing card, like, and like not even just like a regular, printed out at CVS. Like, this is legit Topps, elite baseball card in the silver package, the one with the bubble gum back in the day. This is on that level, maybe even better than that.
That's sick.
And dude, like, I mean, like, I'm honored, I'm humbled by it. Like, when it was presented to me, like, I'm like, dude, how cool is this? Like, even if every athlete gets it, how many people get to say that they got this? And, it really kind of like validated a lot of what I do, and for me to be able to share that with my family and the people that support me, and, they got to see, part of the struggle, and these little rewards are out there, and people can, like, I'm immortalized, people keep me in their living room. If you like me enough, you could put it in your wallet. I could be around with you.
We'll see if that happens. I don't know, maybe.
But I'm not encouraging it. I'm just saying it could be done.
Fuck it. No, but I think that is really cool, and they seem to know quality. I've seen some of these cards. They've talked to the guys over there. Yeah, it seems to be some very high quality.
Shout out to Glow. Glow, thank you for making me part of that project. Yeah, she's super sweet, but she was the one that really presented the opportunity, and how could I say no to that?
Yeah, 100%.
I gave one to my mom. She almost teared up.
That's realistic. Yeah. What are those codes again? Was it
Apex 10? So it's Apex 10 for Mr. Olympia trading cards. Jed North, definitely like some of the freshest gear, and it's super comfortable. Like everything Jed North makes is super duper comfortable for training it. When we talk about tan, there's no company better than Pro Tan. You already know what that is. Apex 10 is another one. Gym pin, sometimes I'm just too damn strong and I need to up the weight. My gym pin accessories keep me going. Listen to me. I sound like the Sham Wow guy.
No, I just couldn't relate to the gym pin. Unfortunately, I'm maxing out. Never mind. But yes, and what we're gonna do is first person to get a pack of Mr. Olympia trading cards. Send me a DM. We'll get you something nice out too. And first person to use Kerrith's code on Jed North, send me a screenshot. We'll also get you something nice out there. All those links will be in the bio as well. Support the man, and shout out Astro Flav as well. Some great stuff.
Now I'm not an Astro Flav sponsored athlete, but I will tell you this: Astro Flav, if you guys do not know, and I'm not just saying that because these guys look out for me, their products are top notch. Like I can tell you probably one or two companies that are on the same level, and other than that, like I don't want to take any other products. But Astro Flav, soup to nuts, has one of the most complete product lines available. Period. I don't care. I'll put that on anything.
I agree. Their pre-workout was one of the best pre-workouts I've had. Their clean trip, I took to Istanbul, Turkey, did some cardio, and sweated my ass off. I haven't sweated so hard on something like that in my life, and it felt great. But like it did what it was supposed to do and more. And the pre-workout hit. I was zoned. I'll tell you that, Kerrith. I was zoned in on that pre-workout.
Arguably, my favorite product that Astro Flav makes has to be inflammation and joint health.
Okay.
That product alone single-handedly saved my season. I am not kidding. I will not bite my tongue for that one. Yeah. Inflammation and joint health is one of the most fantastic supplements that you could take. Try it. Yeah. I promise. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, but you're welcome.
I think he sent me he took care of me. He sent me a care pack. I think he sent me that, and I gave that to someone who actually, I did a giveaway and someone really liked it. But yeah, IsoFlav's great. But again, Kerrith, you are a legend, man. An honor and privilege talking to you. And, please go.
Likewise, bro.
Please go check out his highlights, and I'll say highlights in bodybuilding. I think it's still a thing in bodybuilding. Check out, what he's done. Obviously, the most recent showing was the Japan Pro, where you put on a hell of a show. You looked phenomenal, and I can say, and I know you're thinking the same thing. Your best is yet to come. So
absolutely,
big blessings to you, sir. Anything you need, check this man out. He knows his stuff. Best, one of the best in the game, and that's simple as that. And I'm not just saying that. Underdog Talk. He is a competitor. He's elite, humble. He's Apex Predator. So guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Again, check Kerrith's stuff out. Until next time, guys, the Apex Predator, and we'll say it, the Underdog out.
Love it.